Evening members, this evening, unfortunately, we neither have the Mayor or the Deputy Mayor available to chair the meeting. So in situations such as this, members are able to nominate another member to act as chair for the meeting, and obviously that nomination needs to be seconded. Just to advise members of the Cabinet are not eligible to chair the meeting, so they shouldn't be nominated, but they are eligible to make a nomination or to vote on a nomination. So, as such, would any members like to nominate another member to chair the meeting? Leader? Is the nomination seconded? Thank you. Anybody else like to make a nomination? No? Well, we'll move straight to the vote then. So, all in favour of appointing Councillor Parkinson as chair to the meeting? Anybody against? Any abstentions? So, Councillor Parkinson has been appointed as chair to the meeting. Just before I hand over to Councillor Parkinson, I'd like to advise members that Councillor Parkinson should be addressed as chair for the duration of the meeting, and that Rule of Procedure 6 outlines that the person presiding over a meeting may exercise any power or duty of the Mayor. So, thank you, members, and Councillor Parkinson, can I invite you to take the chair, please?
Apologies and thank you everyone. I need a cushion, otherwise I can't see over the top. Good evening everyone. I'll just run through some housekeeping prior to moving to tonight's business. We're not expecting a fire drill, therefore if the alarm does sound, please follow officers who will lead you to the nearest fire exit, where we will then gather at an assembly point on Believe Square. Officers will assist members of the public who are in the public gallery. Can I remind members of the need to respect each other, and these meetings will continue to be chaired fairly and with impartiality. The public are welcomed at the meeting, but should be aware that they should not interrupt or disrupt proceedings. No one in the public gallery may take part in the meeting, and any disruption may result in removal from the public gallery or an adjournment of the meeting. This is in accordance with Rules 18 and 19 of the Rules of Procedure in the Council's Constitution. The rules of conduct for the meeting have been circulated to members in advance of the meeting, and we will now move to the formal business of the meeting. Apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies this evening from Councillor A. Bullen, Councillor J. Bullen, Councillor A. Collins, Councillor Crosby, Councillor Cunliffe, Councillor Dorber, Councillor Talbot and Councillor Wilkinson. Do we have any other apologies this evening, councillors? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda, minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of July 2025. The minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of July 2025 are outlined from page 5 on the council agenda. I will move acceptance of the minutes of the meeting as a correct record. Sorry, I didn't see.
Sorry, I just, every meeting we ask, when you write to the government, the letters, what you send on behalf of the council when the motions and stuff have come through, we've asked if previously, can they be put in the minutes? I'm just asking a question. So I just wondered why we're still not getting it.
So I've been informed that you will be informed via email as soon as we receive a response to those questions. So that's not actually part of the minutes, but I suggest you write in an email and I'll put in a request for that. Yeah, it's not part of the minutes, but we're just formalising the minutes from the last meeting. Thank you, Councillor. So I move to the acceptance of the minutes of the meeting as a correct record. Leader? Thank you. Do you wish to speak to the minutes, Leader? So can I put the minutes to a vote, please? All those in favour of accepting the minutes, please show your hands. Any against? Any abstentions? One less. Thank you. The minutes are accepted. Item 3 on the agenda, announcements from the Chair. Item A, Lee Leopards and Wigan Warriors. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish both Lee Leopards and Wigan Warriors good luck in their respective upcoming matches, as both have recently secured their places in the Super League playoffs. Item B, Wigan Warriors Women Grand Final. I'd also like to take this opportunity to wish Wigan Warriors Women good luck in their Women's Super League Grand Final match against St Helens on the 5th of October. Item C, death of Councillor George Davis. It is with deep regret that I refer to the death of Councillor George Davis, who passed away on the 31st of July. George was first elected in 1987 and served as a councillor in the Aspel Standish ward for 8 years until 1995. He was then elected again to represent this ward from 1999 to 2003. George returned to the council as a councillor for the Standish with Langtree ward from 2004 to 2008 and was then made an honorary alderman in January 2009. George then placed his honorary alderman status on hold to return to the council in 2010 as a councillor for the Wigan Central ward, which he represented until his passing. George served on many of the council's committees, including Audit and Governance Committee, the Standards Committee, the Licensing and Regulation Committees, the Mayor's Charity Appeal Committee, various scrutiny committees, and most recently, the Place and Environment and Health and Social Care Scrutiny Committees. George's funeral took place on the 21st of August 2025, and the Mayor has written to George's family to offer condolences. So I'm going to call Chair's privilege and pay tribute to George myself, and then I'll invite members to make their own tributes. I've known George for many years prior to being a councillor, and indeed I went to him with problems when I was as a resident in Standish. We had many funny moments together, and George was a bit of a character known around Standish where he lived. And he wasn't very good with IT, as most people will know. And he was often in meetings with a brand new phone recently, and he couldn't turn it off. And he invited me to his house to set up a personal email with him. So I went up, as I'd done many times before, walked in, George grabbed me by the hand, led me up the stairs and straight into the bedroom. And I wondered what on earth was going on. I think Tina followed with a cup of tea. But it passed that his desk and his computer were actually in the bedroom. I have to say, I'm not sure that he ever used that email, because I'm not quite sure, even with the written instructions I gave him and about 3 or 4 visits, that he ever actually quite mastered it. But I just want to say that he was a fantastic representative for the NHS as a porter of Wigan Hospital. I work for the NHS, and I know porters are taken for granted and not recognised, but George was different. Doctors and nurses and senior clinicians alike all knew George by name and to say hello to him, and I think that's a mark of the man and the respect that everybody had for him as well. And just as a side note, Tina, I will be round to raid your garden in the next couple of weeks because she has promised me some plants for my garden as well. We will miss George, and we send our love and condolences to Tina and to his son and the rest of the family and all his friends as well. And I'd like to invite anyone else that would like to speak now. Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to speak. And I can sort of confirm about George's IT skills. And I've never seen as many wires. I think he had his computer plugged into telly and everything when I went in. But can I start by just offering myself and my colleague, Councillor McLaughlin's sincere condolences to the family for George. It was said at his funeral, I've been asked a few times, how did he die? How did he die? And, as was said, I think it's more important that we concentrate on how did he live, because I think that's the epitaph for me, for George. I met George 17 years ago and he turned up at my house. I was involved with trade union movement. I was doing stuff locally and he just turned out me out the blue. And George being George, he just said, I want you to stand as a councillor, you know. And I said, what? And that was typical of George. He thought of something, because he was like, a bit like myself. He was a flipping maverick, George. If he got something in his mind, that was it. So that was the first time I met him. And he's known in and around Wigan, for those who don't know, as Mr. Likeable. And that's absolutely true, because when I used to walk around town with George, we'd meet, quite often in town centre, have a walk round. We couldn't get 50 yards before somebody would pull us up, and it'd be George, oh, George, and he seemed to know absolutely everybody. So it's no surprise to me that he was known as Mr. Likeable. And he was always a community man. He loved getting out and about, loved being in the community. If you got out door knocking with him, he'd be there 20 minutes. You'd say, George, come on, we need to, Well, that's the measure of the guy. He was absolutely fantastic with the community. For us as Labour members and councillors, we knew him as Gorgeous George, of course, because he loved the camera. And he trained me up very early on. What you need to be on the left, so when they come and take one step forward, he'd never miss an opportunity, George, for that. And he was a maverick. And I wouldn't lie and say it was plain sailing with me and George. We fell out quite often. But, well, I say we had disagreements, but you couldn't fall out with him. He was so, he'd have that jolly look on his face, and you just think, I'll let it go. But his passion was there. You couldn't absolutely stop him doing anything that he wanted to do. 4 great passions that I seen in George. One was his wife and his family, and his sister Barbara's here tonight. I want to pay tribute to his sister as well. Was his family. He loved his family dearly, and absolutely, it was one of his main talking points with his family. Although Tina, she isn't here tonight, she's a very private woman. She's absolutely lovely, and I wish her well. His second has been alluded to by the chair. His love of the NHS. He worked there 30 years as a porter. Me and George was on the picket line with the nurses. I don't know if you saw him, but he always had a badge on NHS. That was always on his lapel. He had a deep affection for the NHS, and so do I. It's one of ours. It's a Labour invention. I'm very proud. I've got 2 daughters that work in the NHS. His third one was Wigan, and it was said at his funeral, if you cut George in half like a stick of rock, he'd say Wigan, because he knew everything about Wigan. And everything that he did, I don't know if you ever saw the registration on his car, but that said Wigan. So, he was a great ambassador for the town. Didn't get very far out to Wigan, by the way, George. I think they got to Yorkshire, and I'll tell you a little tale in a bit when we did get out to Wigan. But he absolutely adored Wigan. His fourth passion, and I share it, is the history of the town. He was very, very passionate about the town. He did a lot of, people didn't know this, George was a little local historian in his own right, did a number of pamphlets. His last one, he had the maps moved in Wigan to a more prominent place. His last one was about Wigan Infirmary, the history of Wigan Infirmary, and that was one of his proudest moments. He also got the first, I know we've got the mining statue, but George was the first to get something that commemorated Wigan as a mining town, and it was the pit tub in Wigan Park. And still to this day, the leader and I don't know where he got that pit tub from to this day, but he got a pit tub in Wigan Park, and it was to commemorate that with the family. Of course, in 2009, he was made honorary alderman, and I know he was very, very proud of that. But I said George didn't travel very far, but I convinced him to come to Belgium and France for the First World War commemoration, and so we'd never been out Wigan, George, had he? So we turned up in Ostend in Belgium, and we got out that morning, and I'm watching him. He's off, and he's straight into a paper shop. So I'm behind him thinking, what's he doing, this fella? And he walked straight to the counter and he said, Daily Mirror, love. And I said, George, you're in Belgium, they don't bloody sell Daily Mirror here. And it was the same when we was round the table. He said to the waiter when she come round, have you got any English pack butter? And she said, there's some Belgian butter there for you. But great character. And we went on a couple of lobbies to London, and we went to St Paul's Cathedral. So he gets in the kit, and he said, the next two is something like 3 o'clock. And I said to George, I'm not bloody waiting till 3 o'clock. So George sees this official tour of Yanks. He says, he come up with this great Teddy, we'll latch on the back of this tour. So a bit like Lauren heard this. I thought, do for me that. I said, all right, fair play. But keep your gob shut, don't open your mouth. Of course, that lasted for about 10 minutes until he shouted across in his broad Wigan accent. And then we was turfed out to St Paul's. But he was a funny man. He was a genuine man. And he had a massive heart. But I just want to pay tribute to his wife, Tina. And I know Chair knows his wife. She's an absolutely lovely woman. Very quiet lady, isn't she? Very loving. But when you meet Tina, you see something that sometimes we don't see. And that's the driving force behind us all. And it's usually your partner behind the scenes. And a lot of George's ideas, when you get chatted to Tina, was Tina's. She was fiercely loyal to George. Fiercely loyal. And woe betide anybody what crossed her. But I just want to pay tribute to her, Chair. I think she was a lovely woman. And God bless to Tina and the family. Thank you.
Thank you. And it may not be a coincidence, but we've also got a pit tub in Standish. Councillor Reedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to speak. Can I firstly say, Nancy, I first met George in 1993, and I've got to pay a bit of tribute to Lol, really, because over them years before Lol knew him, George used to come to me for everything like that. But when he met Lol, he went over to Lol. So I think Lol's been a true friend to George and a support over many, many years. And amount of times Lol's rang me up and said, he's bloody hard working, you know. And I think that was George, because of the IT stuff and everything that he did. But I think, and people will see in this chamber who've known him a long time, George was one of them people who never changed. He always looked the same, no matter what. You never thought, because everybody used to say, especially when George died, how old was he? Because none of us could actually gather up how old he was. But I think Lol's touched on lots of stuff there about Mr. Likeable, gorgeous George, everything about that. And when we've been on the doorstep with George, it's quite comical, really, because he would never fall out with anybody. And whatever door you knocked on, he would agree with the view of whatever it was. Didn't matter what the view was, and you could have 3 different views of the street, and George would do it. And he was that way. And I think if you look today in the world of abuse that people get, and all of us in this chamber, and all of us throughout, George never got that, because everybody liked the guy. He was such a likeable person. Even now, if he was here now, he'd be going, behave, behave. And he'd probably get his letter out from Dr. Nakwa at some point, but we know that would probably come. But I think one of the things for me is, and actually Lol's touched on this, there's so many stories about George over the years, we could be here all night, but the NHS was his love, and being a porter was his love. But he was more than a porter, George, because if you ever went to A&E, and I went many times with my wife over the years, you'd be in A&E, you'd wait to get triage, you'd go and you get a cubicle. The first person you would see would be George. And he would, so you'd get the people coming to see you, they'd take your bloods, they'd do all the stuff, and then you'd wait. And he'd always say, don't worry, I'll go and find out what's happening. So we didn't know whether he were a porter, a nurse, a consultant, or in charge of the hospital. And he would go away, and you could see him behind the desk going, oh, no, he's here again with this. And then he'd go in the staff room and get you a brew. And everybody else on A&E would look at you and go, how you got a brew? And nobody else can get one. He just took so much passion. And I think you're right. And there was a lot of staff from the NHS at his funeral and nurses who've known him over the years because he was that kind of guy. He was probably the only person who could get away with the stuff that he got away with. Such a nice guy. It was such a massive shock for everybody here. everybody who knew him when George, we couldn't believe it, to be quite honest. We was only with him the week before, and we talk about photographs, and he was probably the only one who could beat me on photos, George. So really, I probably can take over that mantle there. And we'd got the Green Flag Award, and he couldn't wait to get out of this chamber and get his photo took with that plaque. He must have avoided me for days for getting him on this plaque. But one of the things I'm going to finish on was that there's an organisation in Wigan called Wigan Stars, and it's a disability group in Aldgate. And I introduced George to this many, many years ago, and he went and he met them, and he liked them, they loved him. They contacted me after that, and how shocked they was. He was a real friend to them. That was Wigan Stars, and George Davis was our star, and he was our stars. We'll never forget George, because he's that kind of person. Rest in peace, George. We'll miss you. We can't believe you've gone, but your memories will live on forever with us. So thank you.
Councillor Whittingham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for letting me speak. On behalf of myself and former Conservative councillors, I offer sincere condolences to George's wife, Tina, and her and George's entire family members. I've known George for many years, both Standish, for as long as I can remember. Before I came a councillor, his passion and dedication, excuse me, for Standish and its residents has always been top of his list. Equally, for the wards he served and their residents. My first week of becoming a councillor, 2016, George got in touch to see if I, as a councillor at Standish, could get the potholes outside his home in Quakers Place repaired and have the road resurfaced. Also, he kept pressurising me to get something done about the small car park on Quakers Place. Obviously, I didn't let him get away with badgering me with these complaints, and I, over many years, would badger him about the plantation gates on Wigan Lane and ask him when he was going to get something done to get them smartened up and get the tree, which had been growing there forever, on top of the gates removed. We had some red and blue banter over the years, but we got on very well despite our political differences. And one story, he rang me up one day because he never sent me emails. He used to ring me up, and it was aggravating sometimes, like, you know, just getting out of the shower or whatever. But he said, I want you up here now. So I said, I'll be up in 10 minutes. Got up there, and he took me for a walk on the wreck. And he said, I want you to do something about this dog waste on the... He used better words, but... he said, it's disgusting. So I said, well, I'll see what I can do. And we're having a chat and looking round, and all of a sudden, a woman came on with a dog. And she let her dog free, and she came up and she said, and what are you doing here? I said, we're talking about the dog waste all over here. Absolute disgrace. And you two, you should be able to get something done about this. She said, there's dogs on here all the time. And George turned around and he looked at me and he went, you mean like that one? And it was her dog. So it was absolutely brilliant. You know, the best part about it is she only lives about 30 feet from him. So we put her right in her place. Anyway, the three projects I mentioned are all ongoing at this present time. But unfortunately, George won't be with us to see the missions completed. Rest in peace, George.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to offer our condolences to the family, friends and colleagues of George. Now, I didn't know George as well as a lot of people in this chamber, but he had our utmost respect. He was very likeable by all party members, and that's a rarity in modern politics. which is testament to the man himself, and he will be missed by all members in this chamber. Rest in peace, George. Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam. Obviously I didn't know George as well as a lot of you in here, but over 9 years I've been a councillor. He's one of the most loving, friendliest, bubbliest people I've ever met. There was even the one time in here where he told me, basically, if I didn't stop talking over the mirror, he was going to sort me out. And even he was sat right there. And do you know, there was a part of me that I thought I'd better being quiet here. And we was actually bantering about it at the last council meeting. So from our group, if the leader or anyone else could pass it on, we just want to give our love and our prayers to all his family. Thank you very much.
So now can I ask if you are able to stand for a minute's silence for George Davis? Thank you. Please be seated. Item number 4 on the agenda, declarations of interest. The Monitoring Officer has provided advice to all members and relevant guidance has been issued. Members are asked to consider relevant interests for the purpose of this meeting, and if there are any interests declared, members must leave the room during the relevant item if appropriate. Should you wish to make a declaration, please fill out the form contained on page 17 of your agenda and return this to the Democratic Services officers at the end of the meeting. Item 5, update from Cabinet portfolio holders. I now invite the relevant Cabinet portfolio holders to deliver their updates.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to take this opportunity to provide an update on important areas of work that reflect our ongoing commitment to community safety, cohesion and resilience across Wigan Borough. Let me begin with an encouraging update on how our residents are feeling about safety and local services. The latest Greater Manchester Combined Authority Crime and Disorder Perception Survey shows a 5% increase in residents feeling safe, which is above the GM average. A 13% increase in confidence that the partnership is addressing local issues, now at 59%. The board will continue to monitor these indicators quarterly. Turning now to our efforts to tackle violent crime across the borough. Progress under the Violent Crime Reduction Strategy includes 8 Stop the Bleed workshops which have been delivered, including 2 for elected members. Over 30 Stop the Bleed kits have been distributed, primarily to pubs and clubs. Knife disposal bins have been installed across key locations. Youth diversion. Wigan's Prevention, Intervention, Education and Diversion Panel is recognised nationally. Youth justice performance. Q1 data shows Wigan outperforming GM and national averages in first-time entrance, reoffending, custody rates and serious youth violence. Building on that, I'd like to highlight our focus work on anti-knife crime. Whilst any knife crime is an horrendous act, and despite some recently reported local incidents, it's important to begin by acknowledging that knife crime levels across Wigan Borough remain comparatively low, making Wigan one of the safest boroughs in Greater Manchester. The Anti-Knife Crime Initiative is not a reaction to a crisis, but a proactive preventive measure aimed at sustaining community safety and reducing future risk. By acting early, we're reinforcing our commitment to safeguarding residents and promoting a culture of responsibility and awareness. In July, we launched a borough-wide anti-knife crime initiative combining education, enforcement and community-led action. This multi-agency programme, supported by the Home Office and our Community Safety Partnership. Let me highlight some of the key developments. Knife deposit bins. We have 4 bins now in Pemberton, Plattbridge, Wigan and Lee Town Centre. And in the first 5 weeks, 69 knives were surrendered. The majority were household kitchen knives. Based on this success, we plan to expand the number of bins to 10 by the end of the year. We're free at our recycling centres. We want residents to feel comfortable about recycling sharp-pointed kitchen knives and replace them with blunt-ended knives. And we're proud to be working with Leon Lucas, founder of the Let's Be Blunt campaign, which promotes the use of blunt-ended knives in homes and community venues. The bins provide a safe disposal point. Bleed control measures. We've now distributed over 30 Stop the Bleed kits to local pubs and clubs across the borough, equipping them with life-saving resources, provided targeted training to staff. This grassroots approach ensures that venues with high footfall are prepared to respond swiftly in emergencies. We've also accepted a bleed control box donated by the Melrose World Foundation to be installed at Wigan Bus Station, bringing our total of Stop the Bleed boxes to 6 across the borough. These are not dissimilar to defib boxes and are located in publicly accessible locations. Youth engagement. The I Am Greater Manchester campaign was recently delivered in Lee in partnership with the Greater Manchester Violent Reduction Unit. Activities included a mural created by Lee Youth Hub and engagement with Lee Lepers players to promote positive life choices. This initiative reflects our commitment to a multifaceted strategy, one that combines community-led action, targeted interventions and educational outreach. Continued collaboration with our partners and data-informed expansion will be key to sustaining momentum and impact. Closely linked to this is our work with young people and youth justice. Youth Justice Plan 25-26 is now in place. The Prevention, Intervention, Education and Diversion Panel is a multi-agency initiative that identifies and supports children who have had contact with the police but are not yet engaged with statutory services. It provides early, tailored interventions to prevent escalation and promote positive outcomes. Wigan's model is now recognised nationally for its effectiveness and innovation. In closing, Wigan Borough remains committed to fostering inclusive communities where all residents feel safe, respected and valued. These updates reflect our shared priorities and the strength of our partnership approach and the positive impact our collective efforts across Wigan Borough, safeguarding our communities, supporting our young people and promoting unity across the borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak. I've been the portfolio holder for Children's Services now for 4 months, and it's been a very interesting 4 months, very challenging 4 months as well for me to learn so much in such a large portfolio as well. But I want to just take stock of the innovative work that's taken place and the early preventative work that's taken place within Children's Services. I've visited all 5 of our care homes so far. I've been to the Care Leavers Hub, been to our front door, which many of you on scrutiny will know about as well. So I can get a real feel for what's happening for children in the Wigan Borough. Visited a number of schools and still conducting my governor role as well. And we've got a number of interesting events for care leavers coming up, for the governor's services as well. But I think all of this great work that's happening in Children's Services to transform it, to tackle what are kind of national challenges as well here in Wigan and ensuring that children are getting that priority service from us. We've had 3 ministerial visits to come and recognise work that we're leading on here and we're trialling and piloting as well. That being things like the all-child approach, which is now fully embedded within Lee and Atherton at the moment, which is ensuring that children are attending school, making sure that we're reaching out appropriately, trying to get those kids away from exclusion who might be at risk of exclusion back into mainstream education. We're also trialling the single unique identifier, and we were fortunate enough to have Josh McAllister, the Children's Minister, come the other week as well. And again, this is about data sharing, making sure that our partner agencies, anyone who's involved with that child, is able to share their data so we can track the child's progress and ensure that we are intervening much more earlier. But having these ministers in the borough is not just about showing off we're doing this kind of stuff. It's our avenue to say, yes, we're doing this stuff, but here are the challenges. This is what needs ironing out. This is what we need from you as well. So that dialogue is also ongoing. It's all part as well of our family first approach to keep families together. And if we can do that and intervene much more earlier, it means that those children won't rely then on our statutory services, fingers crossed, and hopefully in the future as well, which helps us then be a more effective and efficient service. So, looking at a good example across the borough in terms of what we're doing very well, we can just look back at our results from our schools and our education. Wigan's going in the right direction, lots of positive results there. But also, 97% of all of our schools in this borough are good and outstanding. We should take reassurance from that, that our children are going to school, and those that are going to school can be stretched, can achieve really good results and break down further barriers, which is in line with our progress with Unity missions, to ensure we can remove inequalities from what we do and ensure that every child has that opportunity to thrive here in the Wigan Borough. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. What I'm going to tell you a little bit more about is suicide prevention in the Wigan Borough, because it's currently the Greater Manchester Month of Hope, which runs from the 10th of September to the 10th of October. And this is a month-long campaign, and it's shining a light on suicide initiatives and focusing on raising awareness, challenging stigma, promoting hope, encouraging open conversations, offering free suicide prevention training. The Month of Hope is raising awareness and challenging the stigma and inspires the hope in the face of suicide. And this campaign reminds us that suicide is not inevitable, it's preventable. And there is here in Wigan Borough, we're proving that every day through the collective action, compassion and commitment. At the heart of our local efforts is the Wigan Suicide Prevention Group, which is a multi-agency partnership that brings together public sector bodies, voluntary organisations and community groups. This group oversees the borough-wide suicide prevention strategy and ensures that suicide prevention is embedded in everything we do, from safeguarding to health, from education to community engagement. I would like to put on record my thanks and admiration to everybody involved in the Suicide Prevention Group, past and present, and I want to give special recognition to Jo Norton, an outstanding officer who has been involved in many years, and her efforts to raise the profiles and the importance of having conversation has made a significant difference. The group is proud to work alongside some powerful networks of community and voluntary organisation, including survivors of bereavement by suicide, SOBs. They provide peer-to-peer support for anyone coping with the loss of someone to suicide. SOBs in Wigan offer a safe and confidential space for bereaved individuals to share their experience and support one another. The campaign reminds us that suicide... Oh, that's the wrong side. Excuse me. Just turn the page. So, we've got Epic Hope CIC, I'm sure you've heard about those as well, offering peer support through the harbours, suicide prevention training and community walks. Papyrus helps young people on suicide prevention resources. The Samaritans are well known for offering 24/7 emotional support. It's that trusted voice and ears at the end of the phone. Lancashire Mind, promoting health and wellbeing, and the Emotional Wellbeing Group. We've also got other community groups involved that are not part of the suicide prevention group but certainly support it. Andy Mann's Club for the mental health and the support that they give there. The Armed Forces HQ, which is providing mental health support and suicide prevention. Peer-led programmes, art therapy, fitness, but also the Naffy Cafe, which is an informal drop-in and social connection there as well. Specifically for the monthlies, that's done things, and I'm always asking you to do something when I actually speak. You'll find in the bag on the top of on the clothes horse, whatever it is over there, there's some of these bags, and it's these have been, there's a flower of hope, there's actually a card in there which gives you a QR code in order to actually access support and everything else. Age Concern has been brilliant. They've put a comfort calendar giving ideas what to do on each day of the month. Better Oral have distributed, Better Brighter Oral have distributed flowers, and they're just about to have the second chatty bench so that people can have a chat. With You are running lots of activities, and there's been a huge champion of campaigning. Wigan Borough Community First have supported and spread the word across the voluntary sector. And we also, finally, we've got the Chandler House Needles, Natter Group, Crazy Wool Gang and Sunshine House. Deborah and Julie of officers here in the council have also been crocheting these little flowers that we have here. And Jack, Seth and Arthur, who were children of some of the officers, have put the pocket money together to buy Lego to put into the bags. Greenmount Projects remain one of our strong supporters. And this year's Month of Hope theme is changing the narrative on suicide. It's about shifting from silence onto conversation, from stigma to support, and from despair to hope. Colleagues and I were at the Believe Square last week with the SOBS group to unveil a memorial stone and a bench, a place of reflection, remembrance and hope. It stands as a tribute to those we've lost and a reminder of our shared responsibility of support. It's where people can sit and reflect. Can we remember, please, that suicide prevention is everybody's business? Whether you're a neighbour, a teacher, a volunteer or a councillor, your voice, your compassion and your actions save lives. So today I call on each of you to be part of this movement. Share the message, take the training, reach out. The Month of Hope is awareness raising throughout the year. Hope isn't a feeling, it's an action. We all have a role to play in holding on to it, even when it's hard, and it's passing it on to others through our words, our time, our support. Sometimes it's showing up, listening, or just checking in.
Councillor Gambles, your time is up.
Okay, but thank you. Together we can make the borough a better place, so no one feels alone and everyone is valued.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and follow that if I can. I wish to talk briefly on the crucial works undertaken by our environmental service teams across the borough. They do this work in all weathers, day and night. Firstly, I want to express my thanks to all of our teams who responded to last weekend's flood events. They worked tirelessly throughout the night, protecting properties and ensuring as many roads as possible remain passable. They maintained the highest of standards, as we have come to expect, going that extra mile to support our communities when they need us most. Following the New Year flooding, we have been working closely with partners, including the Environment Agency, Greater Manchester Combined Authority, and United Utilities on an integrated action plan to reduce flood risks in the area and help our communities to be more resilient in instances of heavy rainfall. Our joint investigation into flooding has identified a complex mix of causes, and while there is no quick fix, a number of key actions have already been taken or identified. And our organisations will pool expertise and resources to have the biggest possible impact as we can. We continue to engage with our local communities to fully understand their experiences and working with them to reduce the risk of future flood events. Following on from this, and given the turn in the weather, I wish to advise Council that Environmental Services Winter Response Team is ever ready to respond to all weather emergencies. Our winter maintenance plans, which are regularly reviewed and refined so that they are in place for every October through to normally March, will be ready to go as they always are. Some instances are that the salt barn will be fully stocked with 4,000 tonnes of grit salt stored ready for use. We grit approximately, each time we go out, 435 kilometres of roads and highways, including the guided busway and every gritting run we do, which is the distance roughly between Wigan and Glasgow. We have 10 new gritters with detachable snow ploughs in situ, should they be needed. We have 500 grit bins strategically placed around the borough, including both council bins, which have already been replenished, together with community bins which are filled on request. Our teams are ready to respond to severe weather events, in particular storms, and of course, where there is a risk of local flooding, as they have recently demonstrated. Our teams will always be ready to respond to those situations as and when they occur. Thank you, Chair.
For allowing me to speak. Before I start, the way I look at the Cabinet update, I look at what's been going on between one council meeting and another, and things that have been thought-provoking under my watch, if you like. And one of those things is, and we've talked about George earlier and the love of the NHS, at the last council meeting and days after that, chatting to George about getting him involved in running, which he said, my knees are knackered, I can't do any of that. That was George's way of saying it. I can't be doing any of that. And then what I'm leading into, and then further on to that, and we can all say about all the positive stuff. A lady pulled me up and said, I've heard that you're always going on about these gyms. I said, yeah, I am. Well, I can't afford to go to a gym. I've just can't. No matter what you do or what you put in there, I can't afford to go. I'd like to go, but I can't go. And naturally, our gyms are more popular than ever. We think they're cost effective, but not for everybody. So it got me thinking, really. And I've been back to the lady and pointed out all the stuff that we can do with her and all the stuff that don't cost money. But when you look at that lady, and that lady lived in a disadvantaged area, and all the things that go on in there. And when we look at life expectancy between wards, between boroughs, between countries sometimes, it's really alarming to see how people are disadvantaged. Now, we've been on to that lady since and we've spoke to her, and she is going to engage in some of the stuff we're doing. But it just thought-provoked me when we sit here and we think, well, we're discounting it. Everybody can go to a gym. Well, no, they can't. Not everybody can afford everything that we do. So I think it's how us in here, as all members of all colours and all political persuasions, can break that cycle of that life dependency and actually getting people in disadvantaged areas to actually partake in some activity of what have you. So we have walking, cycling. You'll all have seen all the stuff that we do with Be Well. And I want to give an example, really, because something the three of us in our ward have been working with, but not doing. Other people have done it. And there was a group who set a walking group up from the community centre. There's 2 or 3 people involved. And then I met a couple of people who I knew who had lost their partners. It was ladies who had lost their husbands. And there was about half a dozen who actually had lost their husbands. And I thought, they didn't know each other, so I got them to go to this group and just go for a coffee and try it out and actually break that kind of model of that bereavement bit. They kind of did that. All that group stuck together. There's now nearly 20 of them who meet on a Monday and a Thursday. And in typical Wigan fashion, so they meet, they have the breakfast, they then walk to A Hall, they then have the pie. So I think they walk all this food off in between it. But in between that, they're talking, they're meeting up, and they're doing all that mental health stuff, really, what they don't think they're doing about bereavement. And when we've all been through bereavement at some point, and people angle it differently. That group now, Tuesday they go playing bingo, Wednesday they go somewhere else, Thursday do the walk again. I've got in trouble, really, of some of these families, because some of these grandparents used to look after the kids, and now the people are finding that they've not actually got the grandparents to look after the kids, so sometimes they have to miss the Thursdays and Fridays. But joking apart, I think all of us in this room, I know we do coffee mornings, I've seen all the stuff on social media everybody does in this room, is getting people active and actually really embracing what we do by bringing people together. We've got a big role in here, no matter who we are, to bring them people together and use all those things. And when you look at the Wigan 10K, and I know we have the equivalent in Lee, the amount of people who run that, walk that, do whatever they do in it, they do 10K and don't realise they've done 10K at the end of the day. And it's so, people have come to me and chatted. I know Paul Kenny does running, Jim does run, all the group who we do. And people feel better if they lose a bit of weight, but it makes them feel better as well. And that's what people are saying. We have midweek mile groups. But in Be Well, it doesn't always have to be officers, because we have volunteers, Be Well volunteers, who run them groups. So it's cost effective. It really, really does change people's lives. And I'm not just saying that because I can show you the examples. Let all of us in this room do some of that. Bring them people together, and let's change that life dependency for everybody in this borough. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mine's a pretty quick one. I was going to read out Keith's report, but I don't think anybody wanted to sit here that long. So I'll give that one a miss tonight. But what I'd like to announce is that when you think we announced the plan for Progress with Unity last year, and that was our vision of what we want to see and what we want to do with our communities over the next 10 years. But a big part of that is partnership. And one of those partnerships that's very strong are the partnerships with our sporting groups.
and sporting clubs. And what I would like to announce tonight, and we've been thinking about this for some while, and having spoke with our partners, tonight we're announcing that the stadium at Lee Sports Village will now be called the Progress with Unity Stadium. And the first game will be played this Friday, where hopefully Lee are successful and make another step forward towards the grand final. Because I've said on many occasions, the one thing I would like to see is a Wigan and Lee grand final, because that would really showcase the borough and what we've got to offer. And also, it's now in the public domain that the lottery winners are now going to hold a concert at the new Progress with Unity Stadium. So I think this is a big statement from us, from our partners, who've all agreed in the naming of the new stadium. And certainly, Madam you've got it again, Madam Chair, that is my announcement for tonight, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Cabinet Portfolio Holders. Move to item 6 on the agenda, the Local Authority Governor's Report. The Council is requested to approve the nominations for the Local Authority Governor vacancies and reappointments as set out in the report on page 23 of the agenda. I invite Councillor Anderton to move the recommendations. Councillor Anderton.
Thank you, Chair. I will always take this opportunity now to thank all governors for their exceptional role that they play on our governing bodies as well. Firstly, to thank them, welcome any new governors to this new school year, and I wish them all the best of luck. I move the report.
Thank you. Are the recommendations seconded? Do any members wish to contribute? Councillor Anderton, do you wish to sum up? So all those in favour of accepting the recommendations as set out in the report, please show your hands now. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that vote is carried. Item 7A on the agenda, Capital Programme and Treasury Management Quarter 1. The Council is requested to consider the report set out at page 29 of the Council agenda, which provides an update on both Treasury Management and the Capital Programme for the period ending June 2025. The report was also considered and endorsed by Cabinet at its meeting on the 31st of July 2025. The Council is requested to approve the Treasury Management position and adopt the updated Capital Programme. I invite Councillor Raymond to move the recommendations. Councillor Raymond. Are the recommendations seconded? Leader, would you like to speak or reserve your right? Do any members wish to contribute? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam. So I'd like to ask the Leader and Councillor Reedy as the Cabinet member if they could look into these finances that we have on this report and see if they could assist the residents of Bryn and Ashton. So after taking a quick look, it looks like we're borrowing around £18 million to different councils around the country, and we've invested around £70 million. Well, about 12 months ago, we found out that Ashton Library would no longer be open until funds was found to fix it. Well, unfortunately, it seems now we've just found out that it's going to be around £2 million, and at present, there's no answers on how we're going to get that money. Now, Ashton Library is far more than a library to the people of Bryn and Ashton. It's the centrepiece of our community with so much. There's so much that could be done with the building if the money was found. It could be a library, stroke community centre, so many ideas that you could do. Now, areas like Ashton and Bryn, unfortunately, recently we've lost our town hall. Our market is pretty much not a market anymore, but we have secured the £7 million, I think it is, of funding. So I'd like to ask the Leader and Councillor Reedy if there's any way of we can use some of that money that we're possibly borrowing to other councils, or even if we had to borrow the £2 million, I think it's something that residents of Ashton and Bryn would support borrowing when it's something so important. But my worry is that while we look for the funding and the buildings left there standing, it's just simply going to get worse and worse. And as we've seen with other council-owned buildings, we then find out after all that they're simply shut down. And what I will say, and this isn't a threat by any means, but more of a word of warning, that the residents of Ashton and Bryn will never forgive Wigan Council if we don't find this money to save the library. And I personally, along with my fellow councillors, and I think the councillors for Ashton, we will do everything we can to campaign to save Ashton Library. Madam Mayor, thank you very much.
Councillor Brayley.
All right. Thank you. Is it Chair? Sorry about that. I'd like to speak on this, especially on page 44 of the agenda. Can I have assurance from Councillor Nazir Raymond that these figures are true and accurate figures? Can we ask her that? Can she answer that question, please?
We're not asking questions, Councillor Brayley. This is your chance to speak on the...
Yeah, I'm just asking, are these true figures?
Yeah, we can't ask questions of this. This is your opportunity to speak.
Oh. Carry on. All right, fair enough. Well, according to these figures, they're not adding up right. The section 1 has added up to 25,980,000 pounds. Add that together with the 16 million and the 38 million comes to 79,980,000, not 71. So somebody's got the figures wrong there. So you get into paragraph 2. 15 million plus 6 million is 21 in my book when I went to school. You put it down as 16 million instead of 21. So that's wrong. Then we get to the final part where we invest in other council authorities 3 million, 5 million, 5 million, 5 million. Comes to 18 million, not 38 million. Can I ask the cabinet member, where's the 20 million come from? The extra 20 million. And you know, and for somebody who gets paid a lot of money, who's been in this job for a long, long time, I think you should really clean up your act and put a report in that we can sign off, because this is not a report to be signed off, because all the figures are wrong, totally wrong. Right, I'm going to the next one. Councillor Anderton, I think it's Anderton, just mentioned about the care homes. Well, I've been doing some homework, and Belong at Blackbridge are now charging £1,700 a week for the care of an elderly resident. Sorry?
Clarify, Councillor Brealey, I'm Children's Services, not Adult Services, and Belong is an Adult Services care home. Just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. Because you mentioned it, I thought... Anyway, it's £1,700 a week for one resident. That's £7,366, then a year of £88,400. Now, an average house is £175,000. I would say that. So in 2 years' time, if this elderly resident lives longer than 2 years, we have to foot this bill. And we've got 51 care homes in this area, private care homes. So they're all going to catch up to Belong with the costings of that. Until we get a grip of this and sort out our spending on paying for a care, challenge these care homes, we are in serious trouble. Out of the council tax, we will losing £136 million just on the private care homes. Now, I know we've got one care home. We should be now investing money into building more care homes because we are in serious trouble. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Eady.
Thank you, Chair. Just responding to Steve. Councillor Jones, I can call you Steve, can't I? Call you whatever I want. Yes, all right. I'm not glad you've raised it because I think the ears have been running a little bit today on this one. I'm as concerned as you are. I've been working on this behind the scenes for quite a while, and that's Josh Simmons has been involved with the MP now, and the Ashton councillors have contacted me. I responded to your email today, I don't know if you've seen it or not, that I would meet with you before here tonight, or I'll meet you this week or next week to update you where we're up to. I'm looking at different options that we can do there. It's a really difficult situation. Ashton Library is the last Carnegie Library, and it's really important that it's kept. And I'm going to fight everything I can to try and do that. But it's difficult. But you know I'll always give it my best option to do it. But there's lots of things in the way to try and get this. Naturally, dry rot and everything that goes with it. But I take all your concerns. I will meet up with you. We'll go through all the options that I'm looking at doing. And I'll take some of your stuff on board as well. So we'll do that.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak on this, and thank you to Councillor Brearley for just bringing this to my attention. Going back to Appendix 1 on page 44, at the bottom part there where it says about local authorities investment, there's 4 local authorities there, the maximum investment of Lancashire County Council, £5 million, South Ayrshire Council, Adair District Council and London Borough for £5 million, which would be £20 million maximum investment. However, we've only invested £18 million, and the figures are claimed as clear as day on page 44 of this report. However, that's £18 million, £3 million, £5 million, £5 million, £5 million, it's £18 million. The total investment in this report states that it's £38 million, so it's £20 million off. So because of that, and I'm sure the Cabinet member will get back to me, and as well as Councillor Brearley, if we're wrong here, but I can't pass this report because them figures to me don't make sense. Thank you, Chair.
Leader, as you reserved your right, do you wish to speak? Councillor Raymond, do you wish to sum up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Councillor Jones, I think your concerns have been heard by the relevant Cabinet members, so thank you for your contribution. Bob, please write all your concerns and questions in an email, and I'm more than happy to address them. Councillor Watson, I'm confused of which figures that you are trying to indicate to. I think you are mixing the treasury management and the investments, our capital programme. So please write me an email and I will address them outside of this chamber. Madam Mayor, this is a retrospective update on the activities of capital programme and treasury management in Q1. We do expect some slippage and some variance in our figures. There is nothing unexpected in this report. Our capital programme and our treasury management are on record, so I'm happy to commend this report, but I'm more than happy to address your concerns if you write me an email. Thank you.
So we'll move to the vote. All those in favour of accepting the recommendations as set out in the report, please show your hands. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that vote is carried. Sorry, Leader, I didn't see your light flashing. Apologies.
Sorry, Chair. Just before we move on to the rest of the business, I would like to move a motion without notice 10K to suspend the rule procedure 14.3 in relation to voting by a show of hands and request that all remaining motions on the agenda are subject to a recorded vote. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder? Thank you. Can we have a vote, please? All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That motion is carried, so all votes on the motions will now be named votes. Thank you. Item 8 on your agenda, questions and comments. There have been no questions or comments. Apologies, I turned over 2 pages.
Probably struggle to vote through the machine.
Councillor Wilkinson hasn't got a card in. Can we sort that for her, please? Apologies, I turned over 2 pages. We're on item 7B of the agenda, the Anti-Racism Charter. The Council is requested to consider the report set out at page 61 of the Council agenda, which sets out the Council's commitment to being actively anti-racist as a key component of its Progress with Unity missions and belief in social justice. The report was also considered and endorsed by Cabinet at its meeting on the 28th of August 2025. The Council is requested to approve the adoption of the Anti-Racism Charter and the implementation of the Action Plan. I invite Councillor Raymond to move the recommendations.
Happy to move, Madam Chair, and wish to speak now.
Thank you. Councillor, can you put your microphone on, please? Thank you.
Madam Chair, we are reminded time and again of the words, "We learn from history that we do not learn from history." Today I rise to address a truth we can no longer afford to ignore. Racism remains pervasive in our society. It is visible, it's tangible, and it wears many faces. It manifests as divisions, sewn together, sown through fear, hatred, and prejudice. It appears in the form of Islamophobia that targets entire communities. It is revealed in the discrimination that denies opportunity based on the color of one's skin and practice of one's faith, or even the origins of one's name. Every day, in our streets, our schools, our workplaces, and our neighborhoods, there are subtle and not so subtle reminders to some that they do not belong. The language of hate divides us, yet we hold the power, the responsibility to reject the division. We cannot dismiss the pain caused by stereotypes, by systems that benefit some while disadvantages others, by words that wound, and by actions that exclude. These problems are not abstract, nor are they distant. They exist here among us, and they demand our courage, our attention, and our decisive action. And despite these challenges, there is hope. For every act of prejudice, there are countless acts of kindness. For every barrier erected, there are bridges built by those who refuse to remain silent. For every voice of hate, there are millions more calling for justice, equality, and compassion. We can envision and we can build a community where differences are celebrated, not feared, where faith, heritage, and background are recognized as sources of strength, not division, where the darkness of prejudice gives way to the light of understanding and optimism. Colleagues, the journey ahead will not be easy. Change never comes easily. But it begins with people like us, with courage in our words and integrity in our actions. Together, we can dismantle the lies of hate, tear down the walls of discrimination, and raise a society founded on fairness, respect, and humanity. Let us therefore choose light over darkness, hope over despair, and unity over division. Let us be the generation that turns the tide forever, that ensures the light of hatred bows down to the lasting dawn of justice and equality. But let us be clear, this is not the first time that dangerous and divisive rhetoric has taken hold. It is not the first time that communities have been pitted against each other. It is not the first time that poverty, deprivation, and lack of opportunity have been weaponized. And it is not the first time, Madam Chair, that people of all origins have had to stand together to defend the voiceless against those who are loud, who are aggressive, and who are hateful. The unchallenged rise of hate throughout history has led to persecution, victimization, and even ethnic cleansing. These forces of division re-emerge time and time again, often cloaked in nationalism. Not nationalism rooted in love of one's country, but in the demonization of outsiders. They seek to divide us into us versus them, targeting immigrants, minorities, LGBTQ communities, and most cruelly, Madam Chair, asylum seekers, people who are often defenseless and without a voice. It should bring us shame that such rhetoric, the rhetoric of exclusion and hatred, is becoming increasingly common in our society. It is our solemn duty to challenge and defeat it, for it's poisoning our politics, it's fracturing our communities, and perhaps, most dangerously, it is corrupting the minds of our children. Let there be no mistake. These forces stand against democracy. They stand against basic human rights. They stand against the rule of law, and they stand against peaceful coexistence in the world. And tragically, colleagues, these forces are once again on the rise. The road ahead will be long and difficult, but history offers us a powerful reminder. They've been defeated before, and they can and will and must be defeated again. Our coexistence is the future we owe to our next generations. Colleagues, as the world once declared in Spain during the struggles against fascism, so too must we declare today, no pasaran, no pasaran, no pasaran, they shall not pass. These words remind us that hatred, division, and oppression can and must be resisted. They remind us that together we are stronger than fear. They remind us that no bigotry, no hatred, no extremism can overcome our unity, our courage, and our collective commitment to justice and humanity. And Madam Chair, may our commitment begins at home. We owe our residents, our partners, and above all, our staff, a safe and equal place to live and thrive. We owe it to our residents that no one, and I mean no one, can make them afraid and question their existence. A child from a black community who goes to the park at night so he avoids mockery of his skin color in the broad daylight. An LGBT person who's scared to socialize, and to a Muslim woman wearing hijab, fearing ridicule and name-calling on streets. And we owe it to our wider community, the majority of decent, law-abiding, and compassionate people. So, Madam Mayor, it is my true privilege this evening to commend the Anti-Racism Charter to this chamber. Thank you.
Are the recommendations seconded? Do any members wish to contribute? Councillor Jones.
Thank you. I've got to say that was actually slightly disturbing at times, but I am going to say something to you. The way to stop racism is to stop talking about racism. It is. I'm sorry. When I look at the councillor, I don't see a coloured councillor or an Islam or Christian. I see a very capable councillor. Yeah. And do you know what? 99% of people in Wigan are the same. But do you know what does cause racism? And I know you don't mean it, this type of stuff. Putting stuff like this on, telling people how to live their lives, wasting council time talking about something that we actually have no power over whatsoever. Nothing we say or do in here is going to stop people being racist or not. But let's talk about what we're really talking about. We're talking about Reform UK, which I'm sure you'll admit, and we're talking about the Unite the Kingdom March. Was it last weekend or the weekend before? Where around 1 million people took to the streets. Now, I wasn't there personally, but I know a lot of people what was. That isn't the rise of the far right, because that's another thing where you're isolating people, which you'll find out in May and probably in 2029, but you're isolating people by anybody with a slightly different view. You're calling them far right, extremist. What I just heard then is the same thing that I hear every time I turn the mainstream media on. People have genuine concerns, and when you don't listen to the genuine concerns, what happens is you make them angry. Now, what are the concerns? Legal immigration at about 1.2 million, about 600,000 net immigration. Purely from a mathematics point of view, it's too many. But illegal immigration, I'm actually helping a family at the moment who have just got the refugee status. I find out then Serco actually kick them out straight away, so now I'm helping them get a house with the council. And I say that for what I'm going to say next. It's not always one way or the other. There are a lot of bad people coming over here illegally. I've had 2 issues in Bryn, both involving people being arrested and both involving children. Guess what? Both times in the last 6 months, it was, unfortunately, an illegal migrant. Now, I don't think that's because all the people from these countries are bad. I think probably the government are probably actually sending sometimes the worst people out of the countries. I've got 10,000 people in Bryn, and I haven't had one issue. I've got 100, 200 illegal migrants. I've had 2 issues. So people's concerns are real. And if we call them far right, we call them racist, we don't take on, we're going to isolate them. But what it's going to mean, and I guarantee this, because I usually get it right when it comes to elections, you are going to be annihilated, possibly us as independents this May, when Reform UK come. And that's because, where you say the majority of people are with you, it's not. That's why your polling is so bad. And I'm not saying that as a cheap shot. You live in a bubble where a lot of people think like you because they're part of the same political party. But the reality on the streets is completely different. We don't need a charter against racism. We just need to love each other. We are all brothers and sisters under the same creator, which is God, and we don't need to keep going on and telling people how to live their lives. Madam Mayor, thank you very much.
Councillor O'Byrne.
Thank you for letting me speak. Can I just say, well done, Steve. You've said what the vast majority of normal, ordinary, decent people in Wigan and Leith think. And I'd like to raise that I strongly object to the inclusion of the suggested definition of Islamophobia into any council policy on anti-racism. Islam is a religion, not a race, regardless of the fact that certain ethnicities may predominantly follow it. The two should not be conflated and could lead to a criticism of Islam being construed as racism. It is not racism, and no religion should be above criticism, and neither should any religion be given special protection under law. I'm a practicing Roman Catholic, but I would not like or expect my religion to be beyond criticism, especially around the issue of the Catholic Church covering up for paedophile priests. Any cover-ups need to be called out, whatever religion it is, and for far too long, Muslims have not been called out, and they've not called their own community out on this what's been a major issue. We already have racism laws that protect minorities. Fears of being accused of racism were instrumental in multiple organisations ignoring the scandal of gangs of predominantly Pakistani Muslim men raping and torturing young, vulnerable, mainly white girls for decades in racist attacks. The police, local authorities, teachers, social workers knew this was going on, but were deterred from speaking out from fear of being seen as racist. This fear played a crucial part in the reluctance of police forces in the north of England to investigate rape gang claims. Introducing this definition of Islamophobia could frighten young victims into silence because, as Maggie Oliver says, these horrific crimes are still going on and still being covered up. It could also give the gangs a feeling of impunity. I know the majority of rapes in the UK are carried out by white males, obviously, as we are a predominantly white country. However, there hasn't been a systemic cover-up of their crimes by the authorities, as has been the case with the Pakistani Muslim rape gangs. The definition would also be detrimental to young Muslim girls, some who may be at risk of female genital mutilation or child marriage. Teachers, nurses, doctors and social workers may be deterred from reporting concerns for fear of losing their jobs and facing accusations of racism. I totally do not support this definition being included in any Wigan Council policy or charter on racism.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak on this. Now, I've got a question for my fellow elected members from the Labour Party. Have you actually read your own political handbook and its definition of Islamophobia? Under equality law, Muslims are a religious group and they do not comprise of a distinct ethnic or national group. Unlawful discrimination against a person because they are Muslim is therefore a type of religious discrimination and not a type of racial discrimination, whereas this all-party parliamentary group definition clearly states that Islamophobia is rooted in racism and is a type of racism which targets the expressions of Muslimness or perceived Muslimness, which contradicts your own Labour Party policy. Now, I'm assuming that all members have read the full 72-page document, what this all-party parliamentary group references, and not just a tagline that's been attached to the coattails of this anti-racism charter. Because if they've read the full report, and I'm assuming you all have, then you're going to share some of my concerns as I move forward. Because under the full definition, and let's not beat around the bush here, you're pushing this to get pushed by and carried by national government. And if this gets carried by national government, it would now become unlawful to question other countries such as Iraq, Iran, Syria, Afghanistan, where religious blasphemy laws have restricted human rights, freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And this is a pathway to tyranny through authoritarian religious consolidation. So is it as Islamophobic to question the human rights in these countries? No, it's not. So now if this gets passed, and this is what you're all voting for today, one could not even question the recent slavery and slave markets that were still existent in Middle Eastern and Muslim countries in the 1960s and 1970s, or even the current slavery that still exists through ISIS and Boko Haram that still goes on today, because it'd be unlawful, because it'd be Islamophobic. Now, and going back to what Councillor Burns said there about the grooming gangs, now you couldn't even question the facts here, because this is despite the government's official findings through the Casey report that clearly states that there's a cultural issue for mainly Pakistani Muslim men and their attitudes towards white working class girls. So by accepting this full definition today of Islamophobia, and you're basically saying that it would give perpetrators of this national disgrace impunity while denying the victims the justice they deserve. Ask yourself the question, is that what we want in this chamber? I'd like to think no. And only this week, the Prime Minister acknowledged the state of Palestine, and in doing so, inadvertently rewarded Hamas for their horrific terror attack on the 7th of October on the Nova Music Festival. Under this definition, it would become illegal to criticise the state of Palestine by claiming it's a terrorist endeavour. It's on page 57 of this report. Well, I'm a little bit confused here, because in 2006, didn't Palestine elect a prescribed terrorist organisation, Hamas, to govern them? So if anyone here can tell me what the foreign policy of Hamas is regarding Jews and a Jewish state of Israel, please inform the Prime Minister before he embarrasses himself by supporting any more terrorist endeavours. Now, no religion should be, or ideology should be above criticism or scrutiny. And if we accept this full definition, we're basically restricting our own freedom of speech. Now, the director of MI5, Sir Ken McCallan, reported last year that 75% of MI5's terror watch list are Muslims. That's over 38,000 people living in the UK. So by being silent, we're appeasing terrorism and extremism. And by burying our heads in the sand, and by approaching a serious issue through the lens of DEI and political correctness, we're allowing extremism and terrorism to thrive. Now, we've got to have the courage to scrutinise the fundamentalists within the Islamic religion that are drawn to the call of Islamic extremism and terrorism. The moment a democratic nation gives away its legal legitimacy to avoid offending any religious group, it trades away the individual rights of its citizens and lays the pathway to tyranny and authoritarianism. Now, if this all-party parliamentary definition, it doesn't belong in any anti-racism charter, and it doesn't belong in this chamber. And if every member has not been provided with a full definition and the full 72-page report, then how can they vote on this definition of Islamophobia under this charter? Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Brearley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I'll be abstaining like I did the last time it was raised. I'm still not being told what racism is. Now, my opinion of racism is a word not to answer the question. Because every time you speak of racism, no answers get given. Now, my mother, I was with her this afternoon, 92 years old. GB News come on. £2,000 was given away to criminals to leave the country. First thing she said to me was, I hope they give me £2,000 for paying my eating bill. Go answer it. Is she racist? I'm not mentioning that. Is she a racist? Raising her concerns that she might be cold in winter because this government gives away £2,000 of taxpayers' money for criminals to leave the country. What planet do you live on here? Do you not realise what's going on? Councillor Jones summed it all up. It's going to happen. You'll be out of power by 2029. You will. Everybody can see it, but you can't see it. But you'll only see it when it happens. You'll never get back in. I'll be honest with you. Because the finance of this country and this council is out of control. We've lost £82 million, but we don't know where it's gone. Nazia Raven doesn't know where it's gone. She's still not answered the question from the last full council when I asked, and I put it in writing. I had a meeting with her. Still not got proper answers.
Councillor Brearley, can you stick to the topic of the anti-racism bill, please? We're not talking about finances now.
Sorry?
Thank you.
Oh, did you? Did Alison Mackenzie tell you it shut me up then again? Again? Well, I'll tell you what, Miss Mackenzie, you're in serious trouble when this next item...
Councillor Brearley, I'm quite capable of chairing the meeting myself. You were going off topic, and I just kindly asked you to come back to the anti-racism
Chief Exec shouldn't nudge you. You should be able to do that.
She didn't nudge me at all.
Sorry? She didn't tell you?
Will you come back onto topic, please, Councillor Brearley, or sit down?
Yeah. If I leave the room, I want my vote recorded as abstain.
Nobody, it doesn't work like that. We're doing a named vote. So it's your choice whether...
Yeah, then vote abstain.
Councillor Brearley, you've got 2.5 minutes left to either talk on the anti-racism charter.
Here's my pass. Yeah. And everything I've said is not racist. Not racist, it's concerns. It's concerns of the people of Wigan, of the country. We're concerned about what's going on. And when you give all this money away to people who are criminals, and you like, pat them on the back, can I ask Councillor Nazir Raymond, has racism ever held you back to the position you are in? No. Well, that says it all. It says it all, that.
Councillor Brayley, apologies, but it's not question time. You have to keep on. You're talking about, you've got 1.5 minutes left. We can't have questions.
Madam Chair, I'll sit down there. Thanks very much anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Brayley.
Bye-bye.
Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't really add much more to what's already been said today, but I'm deeply concerned, like a lot of people, with what is happening in the country and in our communities. And while I appreciate the intent behind this document, and I commend the Council's stated commitment to tackling racism, however, the focus is heavily on Islamophobia. The document states, Islamophobia is rooted in racism and is a type of racism that targets expressions of Muslimness or perceived Muslimness. That's, again, as Councillor Watson said, that's more on faith, isn't it, more than race. But I have serious concerns that this policy in its current form risks being exclusionary. Nowhere else does it mention other faiths or race which face the same struggles daily. Also, why is it necessary to have a task force in 12 months' time, and what powers will this force have, and what will be their remit? There's no clarity on that, and it really concerns me that we're going to have a council task force tackling this when they can't even get the streets cleaned proper. You know, it's absolutely unreal. Racism in all its insidious forms must be challenged. We cannot effectively combat prejudice by focusing solely on one group, while potentially overlooking the experiences of others who also face discrimination and racism. A truly anti-racist policy must be intersectional, acknowledging that different groups experience racism in unique ways, but that all forms of racism are unacceptable. Therefore, while I support the overall goal of creating a more equitable and inclusive borough, I cannot, in good conscience, vote in favour of a document that, in my view, does not adequately address the full spectrum of racial prejudice. I believe it's crucial that this policy be amended to reflect a broader commitment to combating all forms of racism, ensuring that no group feels overlooked or marginalised in our efforts to build a truly and just equitable community. I've got other points on that. I mean, we have seen recently in the news positive discrimination against, where they're asking like for people of a certain ethnic background to apply for jobs. That to me is discrimination. And that shouldn't be happening. It should be the best person for the job. And as Councillor Jones said, I see past colour. I see people for who they are and what has been said before, content of character. And that should all that matters with people. Not what religion you are, what race you are, what colour you are. It's who you are, what matters, and how you compose yourself in public and in groups. It's also mentioned in this report about having staff training and elected member training. Well, I'm quite confident that I don't need that training. I'm quite confident of who I am and how I respect people for who they are. If you need that training, you need to ask yourself some questions. I will not be supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we started off in Wigan, because that's what you said it was about, the independence. Then we went around the world in 20 minutes. We went to Iran, Iraq, Palestine, just so you don't have to vote for this motion. So just to use that one phrase, and that's the reason, because that's probably going to be your rationale as to why they can't support it. I've just read that document thoroughly. I can't see anything in there what you would argue against. I really can't. It's just common decency stuff. Now, you know, of course, there's genuine concerns. I moved a motion earlier this year. You can't dismiss that about immigration. And I know there's decent people out there that are not racist, but there are people out there that are using this situation and because I gave him one of Lawrence's Uncle Joe's mint balls earlier on. So, I mean, of course there's genuine concerns and not, you know, you think we're going to have a debate about reform or not. You know, they can debate themselves. They've got their own channel now. You've already mentioned it, where you get your information from. It's radicalising people. I've seen it with my youngest lad. And to suggest that people aren't being radicalised, you can't go on that phone for less than a minute before you get an algorithm about an immigrant on there, I can assure you. And they'll be black, and they'll be raping somebody, they'll be doing something else. So don't suggest that that's not going on. People are using this horrible situation, what's going on with migration, to their advantages. Right, we're seeing
Councillor
posts
Hunt,
going out.
Councillor Hunt, Councillor Bailey, can you tell me what your point of order is,
Yeah,
please?
he's mentioned that I'm radicalised. I'm not radicalised.
I
believe in common sense.
Councillor Brayley.
I'm not radicalised.
Councillor
Watching
Brayley, I don't
GB
think
News.
you were mentioned.
My God.
What
about watching BBC?
Councillor Brayley, you weren't mentioned, and that's not a point of order. Thank you.
Bob, you're a radical economist, you mate. So I don't mean, you know.
Councillor Hunt, will you?
You're radical economics, so you're just wasting time now. Filibustering, isn't it? Filibustering. You've had your opportunity. Yeah, you've had your opportunity. So,
Councillor Hunt, can you carry on with your speech, please? You've got 3 minutes left.
Please. It's filibustering. I'm used to it, love. It's in the trade union movement. We get it all the time. So what they don't want to do is hear the facts, isn't it? And the facts are this. There are people out there that are hell-bent on dividing this country. I can assure you. And you only have to lift that phone up. And they are hijacking. Whether that march is far right, I don't know. So what's happening Saturday. But there'll be people up there that were down London the other week, because I saw them, demonising Muslims. Right, demonising Muslims, and you can see it, and I watched it, yeah. And listen, you've had your say, you've had your chance. Listen, so I'm sure you were there then, was you? So, oh yeah, well there you go, there you go. So it just shows you. I've just demonstrated very quickly how right-wing politics, far right, can influence. Are we going to tolerate this all night?
Councillor Byrne, please don't shout out during the debate.
Yeah, we're going to tolerate this all night. So you've got far right elements. I've no doubt that they're in reform. They might be Tommy Robinson fans, I don't know. But to suggest that this is not going on. I saw a post last week. Are we at it again? I saw a post last week.
Councillor Brayley, please stand up when you're talking. Can you tell me what your point of order is, please? That's not a point of order.
Google it.
Yeah.
Right. So I saw a post last week, and it was in your ward, Madam Chair, saying that it was Muslims, asylum seek, illegal, whatever they call it. They've got a name for it all because they mix them all up. And what they're doing, the ogling girls going to Standish High School. You must have seen it. You must have seen it. To the credit, that lot up there didn't put it out, reform, to their credit. And it was checked out by you yourself, Madam Chair, by the police and by Standish High School, and it was a nonsense. Yeah. Nonsense. Now, this is the sort of misinformation that gets put out there, and that's what this is about, demonising people, demonising a race or a religion. If you want to sit there tonight and vote about it because you've got this thing about Islamophobia, crack on. But it's not just the Islam, you know, there's radicals in all. You go to America, they're walking around with M16s, calling them the Bible Belt. You know, allegedly, the Christians, you know. So there's radicals out there. And there's nothing wrong with this motion, I certainly can. If you want to have a trip around the world, we can't resolve it. It's already said, he's gone there. Councillor Jones said this is about Wigan. It's not about Iraq, it's not about Iran. But we can make a difference in Wigan. And I'll end by this, and he's gone, Councillor Jones. I fundamentally disagree with what he said earlier on, to stay silent. Because they did that in the 30s, and they did it in the 30s. They come for the socialists
Councillor
first.
Hunt, you are out of time.
They came for the Jews, and then they come for you. So silence is not an option.
Councillor Brearley, please don't shout across the chamber. Leader, you reserved your right to speak. Do you wish to speak now?
Yeah, of course I do. And if Bob wants to shout vote Labour, by all means, I'm not particularly fussed about that. But can we just calm down a little bit? Because the first thing you should remember as a politician is to be a human being first. Because that's what it's all about. And if you look at the report that's before you, we've all went off on a tangent about something. Actually, we agreed in this council chamber on the 19th of July 2023.
Councillor O'Byrne, please do not shout out. That's your first warning.
Now, I don't want to scupper your applications to join Reform, but in July 19th, 2023, 10 of you who were sat over there did not vote against, did not ask for a recorded vote when this council agreed the definition of Islamophobia. Now, just remember that, because you were here. Tonight I've asked for a recorded vote, and that is what we'll do. Because this is about anti-racism. Link to it whatever you wish. You'll each plough your own furrow, and that is entirely up to you. But what I would say, like I started off, remember to be a human being first. And I'm more than happy to second this motion, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Raymond, do you wish to sum up?
Even when we are minority. Do not try to confuse the wider immigration issues with individual racist incidents that are happening on our streets. Councillor Watson, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all for your wish to jump on the bandwagon of talking about really complicated and controversial international issues, because the social media is providing a rife, a fertile platform for people like you, for misinformation, for sensationalism, and for negative news for their meager gains. But I would suggest you do some research on topics like Sharia law, which is a code of conduct for Muslim, and blasphemy laws, which has been prevalent in most religions, including Christianity, and also try to find out when the actual conflict started in Middle East. So don't be delusional and don't try to take the moral high ground. Councillor O'Byrne, a classic scaremongering dressed up as concern. Nobody is saying that Islam can't be criticized. You know that, and I know that. And the APPG's definition of Islamophobia explicitly says that it's about protecting Muslims and not Islam as a religion. What's really happening here is that you don't like the idea of Islamophobia being named and challenged.
Councillor
so
Raymond.
You hide behind the excuse.
What's your point of order, Councillor Brearley?
Insulting a fellow councillor is not a human being, is it?
Okay.
Councillor
Councillor Brearley, that's
Be
not
a
a point
human
of
being.
order.
Respect.
Madam Chair, what's really been happening?
Councillor Whittingham, you haven't asked to speak. It's not...
Thank you.
Councillor Whittingham, that's not your place. Councillor Whittingham, that isn't your place, and I'll ask you to be quiet, please. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I just move to the vote, please?
Can I remind members that this is a named vote, so you will need to use your keypad. All those in favour and against or abstaining, please use your keypad now. Item 8 on your agenda, questions and comments. There have been no questions and comments, so we move on to item 9, notice of motions. Number 1, a motion has been submitted by Councillor Anderson, which is set out on page 81 of the agenda. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Chair. I hope this motion gains support from across the council chamber tonight. I'm sure many members will have had concerns raised with them over the increase in the use of e-bikes and e-scooters. There is a clear need for improved legislation and enforcement in this area. I was pleased to learn of Greater Manchester Police's recent operation in Lee Town Centre, which targeted the inappropriate use of e-bikes in pedestrianised areas, and it led to the seizure of several vehicles. I also welcome GMP's commitment to conducting similar enforcement in Wigan Town Centre and other district centres where necessary. The Jacob's Journey campaign was one of the motivating factors in bringing this motion to full council tonight. On Wednesday, the 19th of March 2025, Jacob Calland was riding as a passenger on the back of an e-scooter. Neither of them were wearing a helmet or any other safety equipment.
Councillor Anderson, can I just ask you to pause for a moment while members leave the gallery?
Of course.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. So carrying on, the e-scooter they were riding on collided with a car, and Jacob was thrown from the e-scooter onto the other side of the road, where he landed in front of oncoming traffic. Jacob suffered a catastrophic head injury, and tragically, Jacob died on the 27th of March 2025. He was just 14 years old. Jacob's Journey is a campaign led by the mother of Jacob Calland from Wythenshawe. They are actively campaigning to raise awareness around the safety of e-scooters and the risk they pose to children and young people. They have successfully lobbied Halfords to include safety advice when selling e-scooters. This was prompted following a coroner's recommendation following another e-scooter fatality. My colleague, Councillor Karen, will make specific reference to e-bikes when seconding this motion. To summarise, this motion resolves the Council to write to the Government, urging it to introduce a comprehensive framework of strict regulations governing the sale and use of e-bikes and e-scooters, including the following measures. banning the sale and use of e-scooters to anybody under the age of 18, introducing a formal e-scooter licence scheme, requiring all owners to have insurance, making helmets and protective gear mandatory for all riders, prohibiting the carrying of passengers on e-scooters and e-bikes, actively enforcing the law and imposing tougher penalties for violations, and also raising public awareness of the rules and dangers associated with misuse. I urge members to support this motion tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Is the motion seconded? Councillor Cam, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
So, thank you, Chair. Sadly, Jacob's journey is not an isolated incident, either across the borough or indeed across the UK. On Tuesday, the 1st of August 2023, an e-bike was being ridden along Orrell Road and struck a 60-year-old grandmother. She was hit head-on as she was trying to cross the road, giving her no chance to get out of the way. The impact caused her to become airborne, landing several metres down the road. She suffered compound complex fractures of the legs and arms and severe facial injuries as a result of the impact from the e-bike. Now, just so you are aware, an e-bike is an electrically assisted pedal bike. By law, the power assistance must cut out at 15.5 miles per hour. At present, as Councillor Anderson mentioned, the law treats e-bikes in the same way as conventional bicycles. I've mentioned they must have pedals. They require no registration and no insurance. Riders need only be 14 years of age. E-scooters are even more complicated. There's no age restriction on buying them. You can ride them on public roads as part of a licensed rental scheme. They can be used on the road or cycle lanes, but they're not to be used on pavements. Privately owned e-scooters are confined to private land, but only with the landowner's consent. Now, since 2021, the police have been working hard to address the problem. Most of you will have heard of Operation Handbrake and now Operation Hurricane. More than 154 vehicles have been seized across the Wigan Borough. This year alone, a further 90 bikes have been seized, particularly, as Councillor Anderson mentioned, bikes in pedestrianised areas. Multiple warnings have been given and multiple educational interactions have been undertaken. So it shows progress, but clearly more must be done. As Councillor Anderson outlined, stronger legislation would make a real difference. It would reduce the risk of collisions with cars and pedestrians, making our community safer. It would allow for tougher enforcement against tampered or overpowered bikes. I think me and you will know them as souped-up bikes. Registration would hold riders accountable, and it would also encourage more responsible and mature use of bikes and scooters. So this evening, we are asked to do two things. The first one is to follow Jacob's journey, to listen, to learn, and to acknowledge the real human cost of these bikes. And the second one is to support the motion, because by doing so, we take a step towards safer streets, greater accountability, and stronger protection for the public. Thank you, Chair.
Do any other members wish to speak? Councillor Hunt.
The town centre's in my ward, and I've raised this on a number of occasions, and you know, you see these scooters going through not just probably Wigan, Ashton, Lee, etc. So it's long overdue. Fully support what you're trying to do. You'd need legislation for stuff like this, and I think You know, it's only a matter of time the elderly lady been knocked down. I'm terrified when, you know, in Standish Gate there, I just think they're going to hit a little toddler sooner or later, and we're going to have a fatality on our hands. So absolutely welcome what you're trying to do. It was the same when I was a young lad. The government very quickly moved. I bought a motorcycle on my 17th birthday. It killed about 4 or 5 of my mates, and that was the length and breadth of the country. It was a 250 at the jam. John will remember, and they had a coffin tank, aptly, you know, shape ready for you, like. So it can't come soon enough, really, this sort of legislation. It's long overdue. So thank you for moving it, and we'll fully support it. Thank you.
Councillor Brearley.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be supporting this. It's them speed bikes are incredible. I was doing 30 mile an hour down the road and they come past me as if I was stood still on the inside. You know, they really need to get a grip of it. And all these cameras now, they should be identifying them all, you know, especially in Plattbridge. And I believe there's a gang of 7 or 8 of them. You know, why they've not been catched, I don't know. I'm from Plattbridge, you know what I mean, and I'm disgusted in what they're doing. So yeah, support this. Thank you.
Councillor Anderson, I now invite you to sum up. Thank you, Councillor. Remind members you are using your keypad as it's a named vote. Can I ask you to use your keypads now to vote for, against or to abstain? Thank you. That vote is carried. Apologies, we can't wait for someone in the toilet. Motion number 2. A motion has been submitted by Councillor Anderton, which is set out on page 81 of the agenda. Councillor Anderton.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to move this motion. The motion is about the 2-child benefit cap. It's one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most damaging policies driving families here in Wigan and nationally across the UK into deeper poverty. 1.7 million households are currently affected by the 2-child benefit cap. So it's a choice that's been shaped by government, ultimately, in my opinion, and it restricts that support. This is 1 in 9 children being affected across the country. In our borough, we're seeing those consequences. Action for Children are saying that families affected have been left at least £3,514 a year worse off. That's money out that child's mouth, out their pocket. £270 a month. This is money that could be paying for food, school uniform. We all know there are difficulties bringing new children into the world. Heating, rent, many other things to keep a roof over the child's head as well. Instead, parents are being forced to make these difficult choices as well. And we know there's a cost of living crisis. We know there are other choices facing many people in the country as well. But what struck me to move this motion was the previous Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, who's come out and rightly called this policy now morally indefensible. So I thought it's got to come to the floor. It's got to come to our chamber. Then we can add our own voices to that campaign. And he's not the only person campaigning for this. There are multiple MPs, there are multiple campaign bodies, voluntary groups putting their names to this as well. It is the biggest single driver of child poverty. It's the quickest solution to get those children out of child poverty as well. No child should be growing up in that poverty. But the truth is, children need us, but we forget we need children. We need them. Without them, that next generation's not going to be there to support us. They need the best start in life. Our community can't grow, it can't prosper, and it can't thrive if there are no children coming through as well. If we fail them now, then that's a barrier that we're putting up against them in the future. So we can't grow to those heights that we want to. And I know there are those who might think, well, you had a third child, that's your choice. Well, sorry, life is unpredictable. You might be in a very steady job, and that job disappears. The family may break down. That, you didn't choose that. That's life happening to you. That's being human. Your family circumstances can potentially change as well within that. The support networks aren't there anymore. Your family networks are not there. Children themselves aren't the choice. You know, they're human at the end of the day. Okay? They're not a luxury item that you can say, I've got a third child, like I've got my Audi outside or whatever. They're not a luxury item. The social value as well that children bring to communities, that school we want to have kept open in our communities to provide for that education, the community centres that run those day centres, the family hubs that we're opening, we want families in them because all of that value together allows us to grow, to prosper, allows that child to have those barriers removed. So I'm not going to say much more than that this, to me, is a very powerful motion and a very powerful statement that we can send from the chamber here in Wigan to the government. And let's just remind ourselves, this is not a Labour government what brought this in, this was a Conservative government that brought this in. But it's our chance to change that now. And we need to ask and press our MPs to act in Parliament, to call on the Secretary of State to scrap this cap, this very counterproductive cap. So I hope everyone in the chamber today can support this motion and send a clear message from Wigan, Leigh, Ashton, wherever you are in the borough, that this borough wants the cap removed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Yes, the motion is seconded. I'm seconding the motion, thank you, Madam Chair, and I wish to reserve my right to speak at the end.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Byrne.
Thank you for letting me speak. I am going to support your motion because I don't want to see any child in poverty, and I do think we need to help families. My only reservation is I have had people approach me who say, you know, I've got 2 children, I'd like more, I'm working hard. I do have reservations sometimes when it gets to 3, 4, 5, 6 children and expecting the state to keep them. I think we do need to be more accountable parents, and fathers need to pay for the children. Just a comment I wanted to make, but I will be back in your motion.
Councillor Braley.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll be supporting this. It's unfortunate that children are suffering, but I strongly believe in children. In Ingle Green, we put on over the school holidays, supported by Councillor Palmer and Councillor Vickers. We all took in through our Brighton Borough to set up a food, hot food provisions for children. Unfortunately, not many attended because they were proud. It was a shame, really, because they felt like they don't like poverty. You know what I mean? So it's got to come across right, this. You know what I mean? In supporting this. Anyway, thank you.
Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Chair. Just be brief, really. I'm in support of this. There's someone who raised 3 children and had the benefit of having been paid for the child benefit for 3 children on 2 low incomes at the time. It was very welcome, and it's a real struggle for people out there at the moment. So yeah, I'm in full support of this. We need to ensure that children are clothed, fed, warm, and that will only help with their education and moving forward in the community. So fully supported of this, and thank you for bringing it to the chamber. Thank you.
Councillor Draper.
Thank you. Is it Madam Chair or Chair? Sorry. Okay, Madam Chair. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you, Councillor Anderson and Councillor Merrick, for fetching this motion. I fully support it. One of the reasons I actually resigned from the Labour Party is particular this.
plus many other reasons as well. The two-child benefit cap, obviously, there's no point reiterating what Councillor Anderson has already said, but in the resignation letter, it was a list of things, and this was one of them. How anybody can vote, which many MPs in Parliament did. They voted to have against the benefit cap. They voted for it. The MPs that voted against it, which actually suspended. It just makes, it's very sad actually, that I've had to walk over here to be an independent because of party politics. I've got something to read here, but to be honest, I mean, scrapping the policy, as you say, will fetch over 470,000 children out of poverty and help families cope with the cost of living crisis. Most children's charities and all of this, they did full documentation to the MPs, stating every single fact from some of the biggest charities in the country, and it was still voted for. From the majority of Labour MPs, shall I say, as well. So the MPs who voted to scrap the policy, as I've just said, were suspended. Some has never had the whip restored, ever, for doing that one thing only. And to fetch this issue up at this time with this Labour group, the government, the Labour government, has been in power for 15 months. And you fetch it up now. I will fully support it, as I've been fighting for that for many years. But now, with the Secretary of State, the new Secretary of State, Pat McFadden, if I'm right, I think that's what his name is, urging him to end this policy. As it is, there will be no, as you have stated in some of your reasons why, to support the national campaigns, to work with organisations advocating for the removal of the cap, and request our local MPs to raise this issue in Parliament and support legislative efforts to abolish the cap, which came in 2017 by the Tories. Many organisations, up to 40, have given reports on this policy. It was not mentioned in any budgets under this government after pledging to do this, and many, many other pledges that they broke. And that's why the country is in the state it's in. The Resolution Foundation think tank, it said axing this policy was cost $3 billion and would lift 470,000 children out of poverty immediately. So instead of making weapons of war and donating $3 billion per year to other countries, scrap this policy immediately. Immediately. The PIP benefits and what is the winter fuel allowance and many other issues that I resigned on. Andy Burnham, the Greater Manchester Mayor, I've not much time now, is basically saying the Labour Party is warned that risk existential defeat to reform the UK Party if this continues in the current course. I do agree you're going to have problems because now you fetch this to this chamber under duress to try and get out there to say this is what we're for. The people out there are not happy. They're not. I've knocked on 3,000 doors and you've got an issue. And basically what I've heard in this chamber tonight, I'm an anti-racist. I've been it all my life. And it's racism is everywhere. I can easily go on about
Councillor,
Gaza.
can you keep on to the motion that we're on?
Yes,
Thank you.
I will do. So I shall leave it there. After benefit cuts and the winter fuel allowance and the two-child benefit cap, all scrap, promises, none were delivered. This council has been affected now, and the leader of this council needs to listen to the people.
Time.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Merritt, you reserved your right. Would you like to speak now?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Madam Chair. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Yes, I rise to second this important motion, and I'd like to think that we're doing this not in a... It's not about party politics. This is about what we feel is the right thing to do for children in this borough and also nationally. We remember that this was introduced as far back as 2017 by George Osborne, himself a father of 4. The idea was it was supposed to change behaviour, reduce the birth rate, improve numbers in employment and increase hours in employment. But the research that has been carried out has showed it's had no effect on birth rates, no effect on employment and no effect on hours work. What it has done is drive up poverty and hardship. We've heard other people in here say that the Child Poverty Action Group have told us that scrapping the cap would raise 250,000 children out of poverty. And Bernardo's, these non-political people have called it one of the biggest policy drivers of child poverty. Save the Children have said it's devastating and shameful. It's also a highly unusual policy in international comparative terms. In Europe, only 3 other countries place such a limit on support. These are Spain, Romania and Cyprus. And in each of these countries, the limit is 3 or 4 children, not 2. The vast majority of European countries either pay benefits equally for all children or are even more generous per child as the family size increases. We know the government has to make tough choices, but the real tough choice is being made daily by families who are struggling to feed their children and to heat their homes. This policy, as we have heard, has increased the amount of poverty and the number of families affected by it year on year. So it went from 71,000 UK-wide families affected by it in 2017, and by 2024 it was 450,000 families affected by it. And this year alone, nearly 40,000 more children are now being punished just for having siblings. Behind every number, as Councillor Anderson pointed out, children are missing out on essentials like food, clothing and a decent home through no fault of their own. And sadly, you know, many of these parents probably could afford a 3rd child when they had it, but the last few years have placed huge pressure on families in the UK and around the world. The global pandemic, followed by the recent cost of living crisis, has left many families dealing with unexpected setbacks, bereavement, relationship breakdown and job loss, as well as grinding anxiety of how to make ends meet when prices are rising fast. So we call upon our government, or the Labour government, to scrap the policy. There is no way to reduce child poverty in this Parliament without scrapping the 2-child limit. They must do the right thing now, as Gordon Brown says, and abolish the 2-child limit, or risk being the first Labour government to oversee a significant rise in child poverty, something we don't want to do. So it's about fairness, this. It's about dignity. It's about the kind of society we want to live in. That is why campaigners across the political spectrum, the faith leaders, charities and even Children's Commissioner are united that this cap must go. By supporting this motion, we will add our council's voice to the growing call for change. We will clearly say that children should not be penalised for the size of their family, and that ending child poverty must begin with scrapping this unjust policy. I urge colleagues to support the motion and let us invest in children, not punish them.
Councillor Anderton, I invite you to sum up.
Thank you, Chair, and I think there's going to be some consensus or wide consensus across the chamber today, and I just want to echo Councillor Merritt's remarks there as well, and just Councillor Brealey, absolutely, Wiganers are proud, aren't they? Lathers are proud. they won't always say, I'm in need, and they'll go without rather than coming forward. But I think removing the cap is the silent way of doing that, and at least extending that support directly to families as well. There's no coincidence on the timing. It's on the floor of the Labour Party conference finally as well. Councillor Draper, you've had 8 months to bring it forward as well. You know, there's time and we can argue it either way. Let's just all get together, see the child, and vote for this motion. Thank you.
Can I put the motion to the vote? And remember, we are using keypads again. Please cast your votes now. Democratic Services will sort that out. They've got a list of councillors who have left. They will be recorded properly, yes. Thank you. That motion is carried. Just before we move on, can I ask members, would you like a comfort break? Or do you want to plough through? We have got 3 more motions to go through. Just stick your hands up if you want a comfort break, please. Councillor Brearley.
Madam Chair, I think the councillor's wrong because the 3 councillors what left actually voted. They actually voted on the machine.
They can't vote on that. They couldn't have voted on that last one because they'd already gone.
Oh, yeah, all right, sorry.
Yeah. Councillor Brearley, I'm really sorry, but those 2 cups are worrying me perched above Councillor Draper's head. Thank you. So I think we'll plough on. If anyone does need to nip out, then please do so, but we will carry on with the next motion. Motion number 3. A motion has been submitted by Councillor Paul Prescott, which is set out on page 82 of the agenda. Councillor Prescott.
Manchester City, but I think we should have a 5-minute break while people have left. Okay, if that's possible.
Sorry, Councillor Prescott. We'll have 5 minutes. Please reconvene at 25 past. Thank you. Councillors, can I ask you to take your seats, please? Councillors, can you take your seats, please? Thank you, councillors. As we've had what has turned into a 10-minute break, the guillotine will be at 9:10. Is everyone clear? Guillotine is now at 9:10. So I'll start again with motion 3. A motion has been submitted by Councillor Paul Prescott, which is set out on page 82 of the agenda. Councillor Prescott.
Madam Chair. Right. Madam Chair, as you will be aware, the Hillsborough law has finally begun its progress through Parliament. It will be known as the Public Office Accountability Bill, following its first reading, which took place on the 16th of September. In light of this progress, I had considered withdrawing the option, but I truly feel that it is the moral imperative of this Council to show its support for the bill that will introduce the reform society demands following various scandals, including the 1989 Hillsborough disaster. It also aims to prevent future cover-ups and ensure full accountability for state-related deaths and disasters. Therefore, I move the motion and ask all members to support the motion. I reserve my right to speak. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Prescott. Is the motion seconded? Councillor Lloyd?
Yes, and I wish to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, Madam Chair, and I thank Councillor Prescott for the way in which he has proposed this very important motion. And I'm absolutely delighted to second this motion. And as Councillor Prescott has just alluded to, at the time of submitting this motion, the government had not introduced the Public Office Accountability Bill. The government has now done so as at the 16th of September 2025. I believe that this is absolutely vital because in the past we now know that in certain cases many British people have been denied accountability and justice. Indeed, many campaigners have died whilst fighting for justice. And this includes, as Councillor Prescott has just mentioned, the families of the victims of the Hillsborough disaster in 1989, the blood infection scandal, when tens of thousands of people were infected by hepatitis C and HIV from the 1970s to the 1990s, the Horizon scandal, the post office scandal where 900 sub-postmasters were wrongly prosecuted for fraud and theft, and the truth about tens of thousands of British veterans who were exposed to nuclear bomb tests has allegedly been covered up for decades. And, whilst I have this opportunity, I'd like to make reference to the Orgreave Justice and Truth campaign as well. I believe that this issue goes way beyond party politics. And as public servants, I urge each and every one of you in this chamber tonight to support this motion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Brearley.
Thank you. Can I just play this device, which will be explained a lot. Right.
That this council stands in solidarity with Liverpool City Council and the families who lost loved ones at Hillsborough. We call for the immediate implementation of the Hillsborough law as originally drafted in 2017 without any dilution, amendments, or replacement. We affirm that only the full Hillsborough law will deliver the justice and accountability long denied, including a statutory duty of candour on public authorities and officials to tell the truth and proactively cooperate with official investigations and inquiries, parity of legal representation for victims of disasters of state-related deaths, through publicly funded legal support, and an end to the disproportionate legal spending by public bodies.
Councillor Brearley, apologies, it's not very clear, but can you tell us the purpose of that?
Well, it's the motion in full. Obviously, I couldn't read it out because of my dyslexia. This device was given to me. It should have been given to me in 2013. And I got it last year. And since then, it's been a tremendous help to me with my dyslexia. Now, I'll support this motion because this motion brings into my condition where a lot of people have been sadly telling lies about me, and it's cost me up to now £20,000.
Councillor
But I'm not
Brearley,
bothered.
I'm really sorry, but this isn't about you. This is about the Hillsborough law, about the football and all those that lost their lives at Hillsborough.
It's about people telling lies.
No, it's not. It's
Yes,
about,
it is.
it's specifically
Yes, it is.
about the Hillsborough law, this motion.
I've just spoke to Councillor Prescott, and it's about people telling the truth. And it says it in that. It says it in that.
Councillor Prescott.
What my motion is about, what the motion is about those people who would not normally have the resources to represent themselves in a court of law against authority. That's what it's about. It's about the truth being known. It's not specifically about people telling lies. It's about the right of the individual to have their say before the relevant authority, before the courts, whatever, that they have the legal aid to do that. It's about their rights. It's not what Councillor Brealey is talking about now. I don't want this motion to be diluted in any way or misread in any way. That's purely what it's about. That's why I moved it. There are a number of occasions, as we've just heard too, that other people now come into this remit, the scandal of the post office, etc. It's about that. It's about the right of the individual to have that right to put their case in the public realm before the judiciary, if necessary, and have the legal aid available for them to do that, and that public servants are forced to do that if necessary. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for the clarification, Councillor Prescott. Councillor Briley, so it isn't exactly about what you're talking about. It's about people going to court and challenging the court.
Yeah. Challenging authorities. That's what it's all about. Challenging authorities.
No, that's not what the motion is. Councillor Prescott's just explained the motion.
Yeah.
So it's not specifically about you and your device or people telling lies. It's about people going to court and the law going to court.
Yeah, I know what it's about. You know, it's specific. It's saying specifically what it's about, but it doesn't say that. It says it's a law about challenging local authorities.
No, it's not. With respect, Councillor Brealey, it's not. The Hillsborough law is about the people that lied and going to court. It's not about individuals.
People what lie.
No, that's too broad a range. That's not what the motion is. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to sit down.
No,
that's
there's a
not
number
what
of
it's
people
about.
in this council tell lies about councillors.
That's not what the motion's about. Councillor Brealey, please sit down. This is about the Hillsborough law, not about councils. No. No, it's not, sir. Councillor Brealey, please sit down. I'm sorry, but you need to read the motion. It is not about that. Councillor Draper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I fully support this motion as well. Councillor Prescott, can I just ask, I don't know if it's me who's got the wrong information or not, the Hillsborough law, with everything that you've just actually stated, has been passed? It has been fully passed? Yeah. Yeah, it has. It has to go through the... But all what you've just said has already been stipulated and agreed by the Labour Party to go straight through. By the old Parliament,
Councillor, I'm really sorry, but I did challenge others for asking questions during the debate. So it is about you putting your point of view, not asking questions. So I have challenged other members on that as well during that. It's about you giving your side of the motion, not asking questions.
No, I'm not giving any side, Chair. I'm just asking a valid question.
Yeah, but it's not about questions. It's about you talking to the motion.
That's what I assumed it had.
This is about
That's all I'm
talking
asking.
to
I'm
the
not
motion.
giving my point of view. I'm just asking a question.
But it's not, no, but you're not allowed to ask questions during the motion. It's about putting your point of view. It's not question and answer. I have challenged others tonight, so it is fair that I challenge you as well.
Right.
I'm sorry, Councillor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No, they've got the motion. People are quite capable of reading it themselves. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McSteen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll try and get it right every time. I think it'd be remiss for people within the chamber not to mention the 3 victims from the Wigan Borough that did pass away, that I know of anyway, that passed away in the Hillsborough tragedy. Now, I've got a familial connection with this. Several of my uncles were at Hillsborough, and there may well be people within this chamber who did have family members there and did see what went on. But I feel like it's really purposeful to actually name these people. We had Carl Brown from Lee, who was aged 18, who passed away there. I'm not going to go into the details of what happened. I don't want to upset people further. We had Vincent Michael Fitzsimmons, who passed away aged 34, and we had Paul Reuben Thompson, who passed away at age 30. Now, for me, I know we've had some discussion, some back and forth on what status this bill is in, but from my perspective, and from as I see it, I'm not happy accepting anything less than the complete, unfiltered, unadulterated, non-watered down version of the bill that was initially proposed. And for me, anything less than that's unacceptable. There may be other people in here who may feel differently, but I'm very deeply passionate about this. As a Liverpool fan and as somebody that has had familial connections with this, I don't think there's any way that our government can go any less than that.
The real issue behind this is that if you've read the motion, I'm calling for the full, unexpedited Andy Burnham version of this that went before the House of Commons in 2017. If there's going to be any tampering with it, which is the reason I've asked for it to be moved tonight and agreed tonight, that we give our backing to that's what I'm asking for. So I support what you're saying, but that's what my motion is about.
Anyway, so yeah, exactly as Paul stated, I stand completely with that, and I would like it if other people did as well. We have families in this borough that have been directly affected by that, and I would ask that when it comes to the vote on this, that we consider that accordingly. Thank you.
Councillor Gerard.
Thanks, Chair. Fully support the motion. Roughly around about 36 years overdue, I think, this bill going through the Parliament. And as a fan myself of Liverpool, you know, this is really, it's at the heart of Liverpool fans that we do need justice. And as has been mentioned, we need the full version of events of what happened and who is actually culpable, and that they are held to account. There has been a bit of leeway on this motion though tonight. You know, it has mentioned about local authorities and stuff like that, which I think Councillor Bradley was alluding to, and Councillor Lloyd mentioned a few other things there. So I do agree with what Bob said a little bit earlier on, that authorities, no matter whatever they're covering up, be it a little thing or a big thing, need to be able to account and be transparent. I think that's the word what a lot of people are looking for with the public. So thank you for bringing the motion, and I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I put the motion to the vote and remind people they are using their keypads? Oh, apologies, Councillor Prescott, I didn't allow you to sum up, sorry. Councillor Hunt sneaked in at the end.
Oh, just very quickly, I mean, the motion includes the Hargrave Truth and Justice campaign, so I fully support what's in it, because that, for me, was a clear example of the state being used against working class people. What happened in that village when 6,000 police officers turned up, and then we can find out the truth.
Councillor?
Already asked if he wanted to sum up, so he should be going straight to the vote. He shouldn't let anyone sneak in.
I think you're correct, yeah, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Hunt.
Is that the best you can do? Is that your contribution?
Councillor Hunt.
So I'm trying to have a serious debate what happened to working class people, and you think that's more important move to the vote.
Councillor Hunt, by the rules of... I did actually speak to Councillor
And this has been
Cartwright.
happening all night, Madam Burr, and it needs sorting out.
I know, but I'm going to
just...
have to ask you to sit down and for Councillor Prescott to sum up.
OK, thank you.
I thank everyone for the comments they've made that are positive. I do feel, to a certain degree, that the genuine motion I've moved, in some ways, is being misrepresented. It is what it is. It's not a statement for or against. It's a fact that what we need and what people want, the public want, is the right of response, whether they can afford to do that or not. And it's all public bodies. It's all public bodies and officials. That's what it's about. It's nothing else. It's very simple. It's as straightforward as that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Prescott. I will move to the vote now, and please remember to use your keypads. Motion number 4. A motion has been submitted by Councillor O'Byrne, which is set out on page 82 of the agenda. Councillor O'Byrne.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me speak. Before I start, could I just ask, I know we don't read the motions out, but I sometimes think that might be confusing for anyone, you know, in the public gallery who's not got the motions in front of them.
I believe the motions are on the website, Councillor.
Yeah, it's just people have in the past said to me I didn't know what the motion was, because often they've not just got them to hand. It's just something I thought I'd mention.
Thank you.
Well, my motion actually is, until recently, only HMOs housing 5 or more people required a licence, and planning permission for small HMOs was only needed in designated Article 4 areas. A recent Cabinet report recommended extending Article 4 borough-wide, which has actually happened. So all HMOs now require planning permission. However, this is not retrospective, and we already have, in Wigan Borough, as is well documented, some HMOs have been causing numerous issues around antisocial behaviour for neighbours, and the proliferation of them has had a negative impact on many communities. I welcome the recent implementation of the policy that all new HMOs must obtain planning permission. However, this policy, with it being not retrospective, doesn't address any issues with the 900 HMOs already in the borough, and many of these are unlicensed as they're only for 4 residents, so they aren't covered by Wigan's current mandatory licensing regulations. The unlicensed 4-person HMOs all need, in my opinion, to be now licensed retrospectively. There could be a lot more than listed, as they will have gone under the radar, as until recently the council would have had no knowledge of them. There is a place for a limited number of licensed, well-run and well-maintained HMOs, and there are some good reputable landlords and letting agencies. However, this is not the case with many, including some Serco properties, some which have caused major issues for residents living nearby. Far too many of our terrace properties have been bought up by out-of-town landlords who have profited to the detriment of our town. They make a lot of money, but often don't maintain the properties or vet and monitor tenants. Housing stock is reduced for local people and rental prices are driven up. And this exacerbates the housing crisis we are now experiencing, leading to homelessness. All HMOs, regardless of the number of tenants, should be licensed to protect tenants from substandard living conditions, ensure properties meet safety and management standards, and allow the local authority to identify, control and manage high-risk housing. Licensing will identify poorly managed or unsafe buildings and will combat road landlords by enforcing legal requirements and providing penalties for non-compliance. This will improve safety and standards in the private rented sector. And all companies like Serco are accountable for the properties they manage. Many HMOs have a higher risk of poor physical conditions, including fire hazards, making regulations crucial to keep tenants safe. Licensing all HMOs will also help the council to identify areas that have an over-proliferation of HMOs, which negatively impacts on neighbourhoods. This could then allow them to refuse planning permission for further HMOs in that community. Licensing of all HMOs, regardless of number of tenants, will also hold landlords accountable for the tenants' behaviour, giving the local authority the power to enforce regulations, including imposing penalties on irresponsible landlords. It will encourage landlords to enforce rules on tenants around noise and waste management, which are causing lots of problems in our neighbourhoods. And an added benefit to licensing them all is that it might discourage some who are not willing to put the money, time and effort into properly managing HMOs from buying and converting them in the first place. Okay, thank you.
Is the motion seconded?
Motion seconded, Chair.
Councillor Hodgkinson, do you wish to speak to the motion or reserve your right? Do any members wish to speak to the motion? Leader?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for Councillor O'Byrne bringing the motion to the council. And I think you're right in what you're saying. There's a lot of well-managed HMOs. Let's not tar everybody with the same brush of sort of how they manage properties. And certainly, probably many of our ancestors lived in HMOs when they came to Wigan looking for work in the 1800s. So there is a past and a very long history of HMOs and how HMOs were managed. But also, I think, because we made some stances as a council, even back in 2020, in Wigan Central, when, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but Uncle Lowell and Councillor George Davis at that time, and Mike McLaughlin at that time, really pushed for Article 4 within the Wigan Central ward. So I think now that we've brought Article 4 across all the borough, I'm more than happy that we support this motion. And what I would like to do, if it's okay with you, Chair, I would like to move the motion without notice, 10H of Rules and Procedure, that the question now be put and move to the vote on the motion, because I just think it needs to be passed. Okay, thank you very much.
Do we have a seconder to that? We'll now move to the vote on the motion without notice that Leader has just proposed. And again, I'm assuming we're using our keypads. If you can use your keypads. I did say all motions, so. Is that everyone? That motion is carried. As the vote on the motion without notice has been carried, we will now move straight to the vote on Councillor O'Byrne's motion. Remember, you are using your keypads. Please, all those in favour of accepting, press against or abstaining, please press your buttons now. Thank you. That vote is carried. Councillor Bailey.
Jones has just brought something to my attention. Hang on. That car park's locked. My car's in there. Is anybody else car parked in there?
It'll be... Councillor,
right.
really, it'll be opened at the end of the meeting. Okay, folks, settle down. One to go. So I'm just giving you your 15-minute warning before the guillotine when we're on motion number 5. A motion has been submitted by Councillor Vickers, which is set out on page 83 of the agenda. Councillor Vickers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And for all of you locked in the car park, if you'd have used public transport, you wouldn't have had this problem tonight. Which brings me nicely onto the motion. In summer, the concessionary pass, the travel limits on it was reduced so that travel could happen at all times during the day for people with the concessionary pass. Now, this trial demonstrated a clear and social economic benefits, particularly in areas like Wigan, where public transport is the lifeline for many. And that's the whole thing about public transport. It is public and it's acceptable and accessible for everybody. So we'll just go back to 1985, before deregulation, when the Transport Act of 1985 privatised all bus services outside London to allow private companies to decide routes, timetables and fares, and in public control. While intended to increase competition and deregulation, it led to a significant drop in bus journeys and service quality in many areas, with fewer routes and higher fares. Now, this was especially appertaining to my ward of Hindley Green, where the bus links and other transport links are atrocious, to say the least. And even in the wider borough of Wigan, public transport is not the public transport that we would want. So let's fast forward back to September 2023 and the first tranche of bus franchising that was introduced to take back control of our public transport in Greater Manchester. And one of the first areas to be in that first tranche was Wigan. And as a result of the deregulation, the franchising, we've seen punctuality increase to over 80%. We've seen revenues increase far in excess of the budgets that were allocated, and patronage increase on public transport by over 14%. Now, this is all part of the idea of being a fully integrated public transport system for the benefit of all our residents in the ward. And as a result of the increased revenues, we're able to bring in various schemes like this one, because no longer are we using the profits that are generated by public transport to pay the owners of the private companies and pay shares for the dividends. We're actually investing it back into the people who we represent, that is the residents of Wigan Borough. So it's quite simple. This is another step in making public transport acceptable and accessible to everybody. It gives everybody the chance to use public transport no matter what time of the day it is. And it's quite clear this is something that we should be doing, and I can see no reason why anybody should vote against it. Thank you.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Chair.
Councillor Brown, do you want to speak to the motion now or reserve your right?
Can't really follow that, but I'd like to begin by sincerely thanking Councillor Vickers for bringing forward this motion. I am very proud to second it, not just as a fellow councillor, but as someone who's seen firsthand the difference this trial has made to residents in the Wigan Borough. For many in our communities, public transport is not just for convenience, it is a lifeline. And the ability to travel before 9:30 a.m. has opened the doors that were previously closed. It's allowed older residents to attend early medical appointments without the added stress of waiting or paying extra. It's helped carers get to those they support more easily, and it's enabled volunteers to give their time without barriers. And it's made part-time work more accessible for those who rely on the bus to get there. I've spoken to residents who've told me this change gave them back their mornings, how it made them feel more independent, more included, more valued. That's not just good policy, it's a good community. In Lee and Atherton, we know that the transport links can be limited, and that makes this kind of initiative even more important. When we remove unnecessary restrictions, we empower people to live fuller lives. We help them stay active, connected and engaged, and we show them that we are listening to their needs. This trial has proven that a small change can have a big impact, so I wholeheartedly support the call to make early morning concessionary travel permanent across Greater Manchester. It's the right thing to do, and it's the kind of decision that reflects the values we hold here in Wigan Borough. And let's not forget, it's also important because we're investing significant time and effort into regenerating our town centres. Better access to early morning travel will help bring people in, support local businesses and make our high streets more vibrant and inclusive. Thank you.
Councillor Reedy.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just, in line with the last one, could I like to move the motion without notice 10H of the Rules of Procedure that the question now be put and move to the vote on this motion?
Do I have a seconder to that, please? I think we'll do a show of hands this time. All those in favour of the motion? Anyone against? Any abstentions? So we move straight to the vote without further debate. Thank you. And again, I remind you to use your keypads. Councillor Clive Morgan, you haven't voted yet, sir. Thank you, everyone. That motion is carried. Councillors, that concludes the business for this evening. Thank you for your attendance. Safe journey home, and I do hope the car park's unlocked for you.